Think Mathematics is designed based on a three-part lesson approach. The three parts are anchor task, guided practice, and independent practice. In the first part, the anchor task, students are given an anchor task. For example, in the learning of fraction, students are asked to share a piece of square paper, amongst 4 friends. And they are given ample time to work with each other, at least in pairs. They are given ample time to explore using concrete materials, to discuss, to talk with their friends, to agree to disagree, to argue, and eventually come to some agreement that these are the ways to share a square piece of paper among 4 friends. The first part of the lesson is the anchor task. And afterwards, the teacher may group the students together as a class and invite different groups to share different ways that they have come up with during the exploration phase of the lesson. The teacher may also encourage students to journal, to write about their experience, their solutions in the journal. And they may even reflect by reading the textbook. That's the first part of the lesson where students are working on a single task called the anchor task, where they explore, where they discuss, where they write about and read about their solutions and experiences. In the second part, students then proceed to do guided practice. In Think Mathematics, guided practice follows the anchor task. In the lesson we are describing, the guided practice requires students to look at a few tasks and they are invited to pick out the ones which have been cut into equal parts. And in working with a friend, they begin to talk about whether or not each of the figure has been cut into equal parts. And they may say, yes, I think this one, it is cut into equal parts, and that one, it is not cut into equal parts. It is guided practice because they receive guidance from a friend. In guided practice, they sometimes continue to use concrete materials. For example, in the second task, in this guided practice, they are asked to use a piece of paper, a rectangular piece of paper, and they are asked to show 2 equal parts, show 4 equal parts, and so on. This is guided practice because they receive guidance through the concrete material. Sometimes they are also prompted by the friends in the textbook. In this case, the friend in the textbook encouraged them to do it in more than one way. It is guided practice because the characters in the book provide prompts and scaffolds. So in a guided practice, students receive guidance so that whatever misconception that they may still have can be dealt with by the teacher. But it is important for teachers to remember that they are not the only ones who provide guidance for the students. Friends, peers, they do provide guidance as we go through the guided practice. Concrete materials do help us during the guided practice. And finally, the textbook, the characters in the textbook, they too provide guidance to help us, to provide scaffold for us in completing the guided practice. The final part is independent practice, where students independently work on tasks in the workbook. The workbook tasks are designed for students to, on their own, complete a series of tasks. For example, in the lesson that we are discussing, students, after the exploration and discussion in the anchor task and the guidance they have received in the guided practice, and any misconception might have been corrected by now, independently, they would complete the pages in the given worksheet. That's the final part in a 3-part lesson approach, independent practice. In a 3-part approach, students go through the first part, anchor task, second part, guided practice, and the third part, independent practice. This approach is largely based on the work of Zoltan Dienes. that encourage students to explore during the learning before they learn it in more formal approaches, to learn something well before they start to practice, and during practice to receive some guidance before they do it independently. This is about the three-part lesson approach.